Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3 back here with another video, and yes, I just got done watching the Rugrats movie. So yeah, I just got done rewatching the Rugrats movie. So yeah, as someone who grew up with Rugrats, because after all, I was born in the 90s, I was born in 1995, and yes, I was born while Rugrats was still going, while Rugrats was still young. Yep, I was there during, well, not at the premiere of the movie, but I was there when the movie was coming out. And I gotta say, for a film that's only like 23, that's like 23 years old by this, or 24 years old by this point, the Rugrats movie from 1998 definitely is one film I need to talk about. So, today I feel like talking about the Rugrats movie. After all, since I grew up with the Rugrats series, I feel like wanting to talk about the movie itself. So, the movie begins with a recreation of the opening of Rugrats, well, in a smaller screen. Then after Tommy squirts the formula, we get the logo of the movie, and then we get a narration by Chucky, as we are into an Indiana Jones-esque fantasy. As Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil try to, well, imagine the kitchen as a big temple, and they are trying to get their hands on a ginormous banana split. Of course, the obstacles that get in the way are a giant boulder, which it turned out to be just Dee Dee, who was pregnant. Yes, a very pregnant Dee Dee. And, of course, the babies run out of the kitchen and slam their faces into the slide door. And then we come to the reality that Dee Dee's baby shower was going on, and Tommy was awaiting the arrival of his new younger sibling. Tommy assumed it was going to be a younger sister. Of course, then Angelica comes up to Tommy's room with the babies, and then says to Tommy, by the time the new baby comes, your parents will forget all about you. And Angelica, yet again, being in character in this movie, because of course she's in character for this movie. Because this is Angelica we talk about. She always picks on the babies and calls them names like, you dumb babies, all the time, even though they are just freaking babies. Anyway, so, at the baby shower, Angelica sees Susie Carmichael singing and decides to try to one-up Susie. And yes, Susie and Angelica have a duet singing about how a baby is a gift from above. Then, of course, Angelica's horrible singing causes Dee Dee's water to break. And then, mass panic happens as the parents load up the kids and they head to the hospital. And Grandpa Lou is like, come on, up you go, Sprout. We got a pickle to deliver. Okay, that line by Grandpa Lou made me chuckle a little. Yeah, because their last name's Pickles, and that is funny. And anyway, of course, we also get a lot of Stu and Drew in this movie. We get especially of how we see their relationship play off each other, especially as these two brothers bicker at each other. Especially since Drew is telling his brother about getting a real job with benefits, even though Stu does not want to be like his brother at all. So, of course, Stu also unveils his precious Reptar wagon. That would be a key part of this movie. And the Reptar wagon's voice is done by by the by by the 90s legendary rapper sensation Busta Rhymes. Yes, that's right. Busta Rhymes is in a freaking Rugrats movie, and he does the voice of the Reptar Wagon, and also does a song for the movie soundtrack, which gets played later on in the movie. So at the hospital, the babies come across other babies. Well, they come into a baby room with other babies, and the babies begin singing. We see a full-on musical number of all these babies talking about how there's always something new with the world today, since they are just coming into the world. Of course, Grandpa Lou finds Tommy and the others, and Tommy and Boris take them to the room where Dill is being born. And when when Dee Dee is given the final push for baby Dill to come out, we do see a lot of CGI imagery of like a T-Rex, fish swimming in the ocean, pyramids, monkeys. It was a crazy scene when Dill was being born, and then when the final reveal of Dill, that we learned that since they just learned that their new baby is a boy, the Pickles then take Dill home. 4 weeks later, Dill is still crying and is still annoying the heck out of Stu and Dee Dee. I mean, after all, since he just was born. Of course, Angelica is getting annoyed that she wasn't able to watch TV at her uncle's place. So she decides to yell at Grandpa by saying, "Can we go to the circus?" And Grandpa Lou's like, It's enough of a circus around here as it is." Grandpa Lou has some of the best lines in this entire movie, I'll tell you that. And then we cut to a bunch of ringmasters of a Russian circus who leave their train unattended as they are getting coffee and donuts. And the monkeys inside the train take control of their train and drive off with it, causing the train to crash. And yes, this later plays a big part in the movie later. So, yet again we come back to the Pickles house as Tommy, Chucky, and Phil and Lil, along with baby Dill, are basically playing in the living room. And Tommy is seeing Dill hog his teddy bear, and Tommy wants to try to take the teddy bear away from Dill. However, after that, Stu sort of intervenes and then takes Tommy down to the basement with him, where Stu gives Tommy a locket, telling him about responsibility and everything, saying that he was going to give this to Tommy when he was a little bit older. And so he decides now would be the best time to give Tommy the locket with the built-in clock. Then Phil and Lil have the bright idea to load baby Dill into the Reptar wagon. And Tommy says, "Don't do that," and Phil and Lil are arguing about it. Of course, where does Angelica come into this plot? Well, her Cynthia doll gets taken by Dill, and then she says, "The next commercial, you babies are toast." Then, after accidentally shoving the Reptar wagon, the babies get in, and then we go into a downhill spiral as the Reptar wagon goes out of control. And then, Angelica, realizing that her Cynthia doll was gone, she basically leaves the house and chases after them, dressed in a Detective Sherlock Holmes outfit, and decides to have Spike be her quote-unquote bloodhound, So she unties Spike, and then Spike drags her as they begin chasing after the babies. Sooner or later, Stu discovers that the babies were gone as he was about to ship his Reptar wagon to Japan. Realizing that the Reptar wagon was gone, Stu and Grandpa Lou get into the car, and Stu yells at Grandpa Lou, "How could you fall asleep when you were supposed to be watching the kids?" In all honesty, yes, part of this was Stu's fault, but Grandpa Lou should take some of the blame for this, since, of course, he was the one who was supposed to be watching them. After all, he was supposed to help Stu with loading the Reptar wagon into the crate, and which the Reptar wagon wasn't even in the crate. So, the babies, after driving their Reptar wagon into the back of a mattress truck, the mattress truck goes off the road, and the Reptar wagon begins rolling downhill. To which the babies soon find out that the place they are in is the forest. That they find themselves lost in the woods. And Angelica and Spike was close on their heels, following them. And of course, we get the news gathered at the Pickles household as Stu and Drew get into a fight. Well, sort of Drew attacking Stu, because of course the fact that he had to learn from Rex Pester, played by Tim Curry. Yes, Tim Curry is in a Rugrats movie, and he plays this news broadcaster by the name of Rex Pester. So, after learning that his daughter went missing, Drew attacks Stu, and then afterwards, we cut to Rex Pester mispronouncing the names of each of the children, calling Tommy Tammy, Dill as Dale, Bill and Jill Phil and Lil as Bill and Jill, Chucky as Chunky, and then he even describes Angelica as Amelia. And then, of course, Chaz says that Spike and Angelica were heading off of I-95. And soon they discover, and then we get the scene of Grandpa Lou strapping into full-on military gear. Yeah, Grandpa Lou actually wears military gear in this movie. We actually see him wear his old soldier uniform in this movie. So, we also get hints of a wolf that will attack the babies later on in the film. Yeah, 90s animated 2D movies always had a lot of wolves in them. I mean, there was Beauty and the Beast, Balto, and I could think this movie in particular as well. Well, technically it's one wolf, but what was up with 90s what was up with 90s animated movies and wolves anyway? What was up with having wolves appear in animated movies throughout the 90s? The 90s must have really liked wolves. So, the babies we soon see the babies come across the monkeys after living up their fantasy of being pirates. And, of course, I forgot to talk about Phil and Lil wanting to take Tommy's brother, Dill, back to the hospital. And Tommy's trying to prevent this, and Tommy's like, "No, we are not going to the hospital. My parents want to keep him." And they said, "Why?" Yeah. So, most of this movie features Phil and Lil bickering with Tommy. And you have Chucky just sort of caught in the middle of things. So, after the monkeys then take So then after a while, the babies do meet up with the monkeys, like I said, and the monkeys end up taking Dill. Tommy ends up following the monkeys just to get Dill back, while Phil, Lil, and Chucky are all on their own in the rain. And we get this fake out death scene where apparently Lil and Chucky thinks Phil had been crushed by a tree when in reality he wasn't. He just lost his shoes. And they end up giving Phil his shoes. So then we get to this scene when Tommy and Dill are together. So when Tommy and Dill are together, they begin fighting over Tommy's blanket. And then of course, Dill refuses to just likes to hog the blanket, but Tommy's like, I'm cold too. And then, of course, the two of them rip the blanket in half. And then we see Tommy get into his most aggressive as he's wanting to pour the nanners down Dill's throat. Especially in this scene with the rain flashing, and it shows you that this movie really got dark. I mean, if you're gonna go dark for a movie like this, you really need to go all in, and they sort of do for this movie. What about Angelica? Well, we do see Angelica sing the song One Way or Another, as she's talking about wanting to get her Cynthia doll back. And that's why she's following the babies, yes, she's trying to get her Cynthia doll back. So, the babies take on the monkeys after Phil and Lil and Chucky save Tommy and Dill from the monkeys, and then Chucky leads the monkeys away as he's running with a jar of nanners. Tommy then follows the monkeys and then comes across Spike. And then Tommy gets on Spike's back and the two ride off to save Chucky from the monkeys. Spike scares off the monkeys and Tommy and Chucky ride onto Spike as they are trying to head for the wizard's house, which was technically the ranger station. Yeah, the babies also, I forgot to tell you, the babies mistake the ranger station for a wizard's house, thinking that the park rangers are wizards. And speaking of the park rangers, yes, they are played by David Spade and freaking Whoopi Goldberg. Yes, that's right. David Spade and Whoopi Goldberg are in this movie. Wow. I mean, you already got Tim Curry in this movie, but you got to throw in David Spade and Whoopi Goldberg? How much more star power do you need in this movie? So, Angelica regroups with the babies as she hops onto the back of the Reptar wagon as they are being chased by the monkeys. And then, of course, after escaping the monkeys, you think they are safe yet, but no. They are attacked by a wolf, and then they are saved by Spike, who proceeds to fight the wolf. Spike and the wolf have a fight, and we see the wolf go overboard. And the babies also presume Spike might have been dead as well. And soon, we see Stu crash into the ranger station after riding on his Datar, which was this invention he had held in his freaking basement. And Stu crashes into the ranger station, and then the parents regroup, finding their kids. Stu and Drew have a moment after they make up, and Drew says, "You're all right, little brother." And Stu said, "Thanks." And of course, Tommy and Dill began to learn the meaning of sharing, especially since they're in their mother's arms. at the end of this movie. And the parents, like I said, find their kids. We see Rex Pester get beat up by the monkeys after his copter crash after interacting with Stu. Yes, I forgot to mention Rex Pester's copter crashes into the woods. And he gets beaten up by the monkeys afterwards. And the ringmasters find their monkeys, and the media's all over this. And soon, the babies are back home, and we get another Indiana Jones fantasy where the babies actually successfully, this time, get the banana split. And yes, so this was the Rugrats movie. Final thoughts? I gotta say the Rugrats movie was actually not a bad movie, to be honest. I mean, there's a good reason why this film grossed as much money as it did, especially outdoing Disney of all things. I mean, grossing as much money as a Disney movie? Holy crap, did the Rugrats movie do something right. And yes, it was also the first Nicktoon movie, as I'm going to review the other Nicktoon movies following this. So, yeah, the Rugrats movie. It was a roller coaster, but it was a fun roller coaster at the same time. Anyway, this has been your Digital Super Saiyan 3, and I will see you guys next time for Rugrats in Paris. See ya!